In this video, I'll be going over how to optimize a Google Ads campaign for a more recently onboarded client that had some poor performance in the past, and we are currently now trying to find what works and what doesn't for them. In this case, it's a skydiving company, so this is more of a service and products based businesses because they're providing a service, but you can buy them their product directly on the website. So it's a combination of e-commerce and service, which makes it a little bit different. But for now, we're going to go and look at their most recent performance. As you can see from our notes, we've made edits within the last 5 days, which typically we don't do editing more than once a week, just because you need time for data to populate. But if we go over and look at all the campaigns that they've had running in the past, this is just helping us filter down by the ones we're running right now, because they do have a decent sized budget compared to some of the other businesses we've worked with. I believe their budget right now, as you can see here, is $66 a day. So they've got room to kind of try out a bunch of different things. But if you look at all of the campaigns that they've run in the past, once it loads, I'll be able to show y'all. We got to do it by enabled and paused. And we'll want to switch that back to enabled once we're done. But you can see here, they've tried a ton of stuff to get it to work in the past. And clearly the data's not showing because they're not running right now. But they had 42 different campaigns. So it was a lot of data to shift through to see what worked in the past and what didn't, and what we should attempt to try now to try to get something going. And right now they have 6 campaigns going because we found 6 that had different aspects of them that we wanted to try out to see if they would work. Some of them that we haven't worked with in the past before, like return on ad spend is one of the campaigns that we're running to see, because it had really good results in the past for them. So we're going to see if it works for us now. They've been running ads for almost a decade now. So we've got a lot of data to work with. And so this is one of the few exceptions where like you can use last year's data to make adjustments in the now because they had so much data to work with. Eventually, as we start running our own, as the campaigns run after we've made adjustments and stuff, we'll want to focus on just data that we've collected this year. But at the moment, we've gone back in the past to use their data to try to make some adjustments. But yeah, right now we're going to look at the last 5 days, kind of see what's happened. Not a lot of adjustments we're going to be able to make based on this, but we're just going to see if anything stands out in terms of its performance. This was one that performed stupid well in the past years. And I wish I'd recorded the video of me going through and trying to figure out what was working in the past. But what we saw here was they were actually getting all of their clicks from this little zip code that had 11,000 people in it, and they had like 11,000 clicks over the course of a year, which is just unheard of in a zip code that size. So there must have been something going on wrong there. But as you can see here, bid strategy is still learning. And this is one of those things where like customers need to understand it does take a while for Google to optimize a campaign, especially once it's started from scratch. And you can see they've been running before we started making adjustments, so that's why they're eligible right now. But these other ones that we started up from the past where they've had good results, which they told us they had good results in the past, but the last year they didn't have good results. So we tried to go back like 5 years and find stuff that worked. Let's see. What can we see based on the stuff that we have right now? We don't want to go to the auction insights. We want to go to the overview. So they've had one conversion, and right now, obviously, it's still bid strategy learning, and so it's obviously something to be concerned about. Like you would expect some of these people to start converting, but we're going to go in and make sure that the search terms aren't terrible. And for the most part, when I look through most of the campaigns that they were running, it's very precise in terms of the search terms. They're only showing up for people looking for skydiving. So there's not really a problem with bad search terms, but we do have, in this case, it's not going to be bad search terms. It's going to be what works better. And I'm not sure that indoor skydiving is going to be something that we're going to want to focus on, because while they do have a big advertising budget, I mean, they've got $66 a day, so they've got $2,000 a month. We don't necessarily want to just be trying to get people that aren't specifically interested in the services. But we're going to leave all of this stuff running because we're just collecting data. Next week, once we've had about 2 weeks of data, we should be able to see enough from that. Because as you can see here, in the past 5 days, they've gotten 115 clicks. So if we expand that out to 14 days total, so we're talking about 3 times the data, we're hoping for around 300, 400 clicks. And from there, we would hopefully be able to possibly pause one of the campaigns that clearly isn't working, adjust the budget to the top 5, and then slowly, as the weeks go on, we'll filter down to probably around 3 campaigns because they're not advertising a bunch of different services. They're just promoting skydiving, but they do have deals and stuff that they offer, which we can go into assets and promote those deals, but we don't necessarily need an entirely new campaign for those deals because trying to do that and switch out different campaigns constantly, it's going to make it really hard for Google to optimize, but we can put their promotions inside assets, and Google can add those on to campaigns that are already performing well. So I'm going to pause here and see if I can find next steps. So one thing we're going to check on is assets. We're going to go here. We're going to check their phone call asset just to see if it's got an ad schedule on it. This is one of those things that we've been working on recently, is making sure that these things have ad schedules, and it does, because we want to make sure that people are only calling during times that they're actually picking up the phone. But we're good there. Let's see if we put any ad schedule in. Okay, so we do have an ad schedule that's been running in the past. It looks like there's a bunch of different schedules that are currently running. Let's see just for this campaign what type of schedule we have going. Okay, so we have a really whack schedule. This is not something we want to have currently. This is something we're going to remove because we want Google. This is from past year's data that they made these adjustments, and I guarantee you these adjustments are not nearly as data driven as we can make them, because our bid adjustment calculator is that advanced. We get into the tenths of percents when it comes to our adjustments if we wanted to. But when it comes to, when you see adjustments that are just kind of rounded, this is clearly not data driven adjustments. This is kind of like off the guess. And so this is not something that we did. This is something that a previous company created. But what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to remove all of this because we want to find out on our own what ad schedule is actually going to work, because we don't know. That was data from several years ago that they made those adjustments. And so times have changed. 2 years ago data is not effective in terms of making an ad schedule. So we obviously want to make sure that all of these ad schedules, we're probably going to go in and just remove all of them if they all look that weird. Because if we're getting that specific when it comes to, we're going on for 7:30 to 8:45 and then we turn it off for 15 minutes and then turn it back on. We can be a lot more efficient than that. But we're going to go ahead and look at what we've all got here. It seems like they got oddly specific. Okay. This one's a more reasonable ad adjustment, just because we're not breaking it up into a stupid number of small segments. Sometimes if there's a clearly high performing hour of the day, then we would do that. But most of the time it's just, we want to get rid of the chunk that doesn't perform well. It seems like in this case they have. So this is more of a reasonable ad schedule that I would leave on. So we're not going to remove that just yet. We're going to just go down the list and look through all their ad schedules, make sure that none of them have anything too stupid that would ruin our data. So another reasonable one. And another reasonable one as well. So half of them have this like night section blocked out and the other half don't. So we'll kind of see which one performs better, because we want to make sure that it could be that a lot of people who are staying up late are actually wanting to buy skydiving tickets. That's not an unreasonable thing to think. What is unreasonable is if we were in like a lawn care campaign and we're like bidding on stuff at 3 a.m. Most people aren't trying to get their lawn mowed at 3 a.m. But in this case, it makes a little bit more sense because it's more adrenaline junkies, people that are more likely to stay up late. So we're good there when it comes to the ad schedule. We already made our location adjustments earlier this week to only go after this 150-mile radius. We're not too concerned about being specific by location, because what they did in the past is they have just bid on specific cities, and we want to get everything. If we do see that maybe a certain location, and from what we can actually do is find out what states are actually performing well by going to the report editor and using our standard location report that is automatically applied to every campaign. And so we can actually go in here and you can see that we went back really far. Clearly they were wasting a lot of money on clicks to just tons of different states, whereas it should only be people that are actually in the locations that they are, because people can go skydiving at some place closer to them if they're in these states, whereas we were really just wanting to focus on these 3 states right here: Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, because those are all right next to Chattanooga. So what we can actually go in is see like last 30 days. We can see what's performing the best, and clearly we need to go in and change the location settings because we should not be showing up in Pennsylvania. So what we're actually going to do to fix that real quick, we're going to stay on page. We're going to go ahead and save this. Oh, okay. All right. Hopefully it's saved. We can always go back in. It's not a huge issue. We're going to go. We're in all campaigns. So we want to go here. I need to move my picture. There we go. Campaigns, we need to check out their settings because we should only be advertising to people in these locations. We're advertising to such a wide radius that even with a $66 budget a day, that's still a decent budget, but we don't want to be advertising to people that are just looking. So good. We're just targeting people in that area. Let's see. We just need to make sure every single campaign is only targeting people in the area. And if they are, then we've got a problem in terms of the targeting. We probably need to go add some excluded locations if all of those settings are set correctly. Yeah, see, wasn't set correctly. And that's probably where some of the clicks were coming from, is people were interested in Chattanooga, and most of those people aren't as likely to convert. They're not in the area where they could actually go skydiving. So we want to move it all to just people regularly in those areas. And obviously, if we say we had a $200 budget a day, and we're more concerned about actually spending through all of it, then we could start advertising to people interested in that area, because possibly people are taking vacations and they're wanting to go skydiving during that vacation. But a lot of the times, it's people that are already in the area, and then they look up for skydiving. It's not really people coming all the way down to Chattanooga just to go skydiving. They're skydiving all throughout the country. So what we're looking for in terms of that is just people in the area already. And people from Pennsylvania can come into our area and then look up skydiving, and then we would show the ads to them. But we're just going to do the exact same thing for all these campaigns. We're not too concerned about trying out 2 different types of things, because we're focused on getting people in the current area. We've got other things that we can optimize for. We don't want to be spending money on Spanish. Typically that's lower income, and that's just part of the stats. And most of our ads are in English, and so they're optimized for English. Obviously, Google translates them for Spanish speakers, but obviously there can be translation issues, so they just won't be as good. Fine, leaving that for now. Check out our locations. There we go. Yep, fix that. And most of the time when we're optimizing for conversions, we're typically just targeting English speakers. Spanish just has a lower, it could convert. There's just a lot of other factors that we'd rather worry about than having to worry about whether the Spanish speaking population, whether our ads are optimized for them or not. We'd rather focus on English speaking and go from there. Obviously, it changes from business to business. So obviously, if we're advertising for certain businesses that do target Spanish speakers more heavily, then we would obviously we would target Spanish speakers as well. But in this case, we're not worried about that. Oh, we just did this one. All right, that one's good. And we've got one more to look at. I believe it was just those other two campaigns that were causing that problem where we were showing up in random states. Yep, exactly. Okay, so we're good there. So going back to that report editor, now that we've made the changes so that we just show up in those 3 states, now we'll be able to see what's performing best in terms of state by state. If we see a clear lower cost per conversion in one of these states, then we can actually go into that state and then we can filter by city or zip code, and we can see what zip codes are actually performing well. And so once we collect all that data, then we can actually go in and create specific campaigns for those locations. But right now we don't know what works best, so we just have a broad campaign for all of these states. And then if we see, hey, there's clearly a target market here that really likes our ads, we then want to go in and find the city that they're operating in. Maybe we just want to target just the state more specifically. But if you're able to create ads that target specific states, is basically you're saying like Georgia skydiving or Atlanta skydiving or skydiving for people in Atlanta, the ad's gonna resonate with them more, because when they're searching from Atlanta and they say, oh, perfect, there's this skydiving company for people in my location. Whereas the ads right now that we're currently running are mainly lost my train of thought. The ads that we're running right now are mainly just broad-based. They don't specify location. We do have a couple ad groups that are running based on that, but at the moment, most of the ads are just broad targeting. And so hopefully we'll be able to filter the targeting once we start to see more results. But basically, you use this location report when you aren't being very specific in your locations that you're targeting. You can use the location report to find data specific by location. But yeah, I think that's going to be about it for this optimization. We're still just waiting to collect more data. So we'll jump in next week to actually make adjustments based on the data. Probably give it another 7 to 10 days. And then we will go in and use the information that we get in order to make our ads more precise and get more conversions at a lower cost per conversion.